The Get Rich Slow Club podcast is a collaboration between Tash Etschmann from Tash Invests and Ana Kresina from Perla. The Get Rich Slow Club acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. From coast to coast, across land, waters, and communities, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Any advice is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you.
Welcome to the Get Rich Slow Club podcast,
where we take you from beginner to confident investor,
where we can teach you everything you need to know about investing.
So come get rich slow with us.
We're very excited today because we've got Hayden from Perler to share all of his frugal hacks. We're going to hear a little bit about his story in terms of co-founding Perler, but what I love about Hayden is he always has some great hacks. So we'll jump into that, but before we do, we're going to share some of our money moments. Hayden, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, my money moments of this last week have probably been that I'm trying to move house at the moment and there's a few delays and I've accidentally kind of moved my internet preemptively, which is now means I'm paying for internet at two places and that's going to cost me some small amount of money, like $2 a day, but it is quite frustrating that it was preventable. So that's kind of my lesson today is don't forget about the internet move.
Oh no, was that your fault or the company's fault?
It's my fault that I kind of planned it for this day and then someone else has kind of caused a bit of a delay or problem and I forgot to, go back and move it. Move the move date, I guess you'd say. Yeah.
That's always a bit frustrating.
At least you have internet when you move.
Yes.
That's, it could be worse. It could be worse. You could move and then be like, oh, my internet's delayed a week. Why didn't I think of this earlier?
Exactly.
So it could be worse.
There's definitely some positivity there, but it's always hard to think about that couple of dollars a day.
Yeah, fair enough. Tash, what about you?
I have been wanting this pop-up desk for ages. I saw it on TikTok and it looked really cool, but it's like this portable desk and keyboard and mouse thing, but it was like $300, which was way too much. But I found it on special at Qantas and Officeworks price match things and beat it by 5%. So I ended up getting it for like $230. So a big $70 saving. And I finally bought it, which is exciting.
Yay, things that are on sale that you want anyways and we're going to buy. So
I've been looking at for like 6 months. Yeah, it's exciting.
Awesome.
What's yours, Anna?
Mine is, I think I mentioned this before, but I don't remember if I did. My partner and I made a rule that we would not get delivery, like food delivery, back in like December 2022. So a year and a bit ago, and we have not done it. And our rule was if we really, really want something, we have to go pick it up ourselves. So yesterday, the fridge was completely empty. We had literally eggs and Brussels sprouts. No one wants that, let alone kids. So I went out and got some takeaway, but it felt like such a treat because we haven't done it in so long. I physically had to drive there, but it has saved us hundreds of dollars because it's not just like buying food for one person, it's buying food for a family of four and it costs a lot of money. And we used to do that more regularly. And now we literally do it maybe like once every couple months.
What did you get?
A chook.
Oh.
There's this like really great like barbecue chicken joint around the corner and they have like amazing fries and really good salads. I know it's like usually I would buy something that I can't make at home, like some kind of cuisine. There's this amazing Indian place that's a couple suburbs away that I happily drive to. But yeah, this time was we just need to eat and quick and easy. But it was still yummy. Yeah, chicken it was. But it was good. The fries were amazing. I can't complain.
I'm quite impressed you haven't given in at all for like, what is it, a year and a half almost? That's really impressive.
Yeah, the time where we had a babysitter, I literally like drove to the pizza place to get pizza and bring it home before the babysitter came. I know it sounds stupid, but like honestly,
I like it. So dedicated.
It comes down to friction, right? If you create friction in your habit forming or in terms of money, and if I'm making it harder for myself, I'm not going to spend the money. And if I make it easier, such as having apps where I can easily purchase things, then it's easier to spend money. So creating those friction points is really important. If you haven't read Atomic Habits, love that book, talks a lot about that kind of stuff.
It's kind of like Emma from the Broke Generation says about spending runways. Like as soon as you give yourself permission to buy something, all of a sudden you just open up the floodgates. And I think that really is relevant a lot of the time. Like I do the same when I order something on Uber Eats and I'm like, oh, cool. The next day something's on special. I might as well get it as well. Instead of just having that hard no rule.
Yeah.
Hayden, what's your take on Uber Eats and food delivery?
I don't know if I've ever used it. I think I get close sometimes, but I chicken out because I compare it to the in-person menu, and then I think about the delivery fee, and sometimes I'd just rather go drive and get there. But honestly, for me, I actually just don't like the idea of maybe my food being cold, so that helps motivate me. yeah, I try and avoid it too, because I know how a slippery slope it is, because I think work has paid for it a few times, and man, when that food just arrives at your house, it's like a dopamine hit, isn't it? It's like, oh my God, it just appeared, and it's so easy to get addicted.
I love the deals they have, and now that I've got the Uber One Pass or whatever it is, you get a lot of really good offers, and it is like quite addictive scrolling through and trying to find the best deal. And sometimes you can get grilled burgers delivered for $10, which is great because grilled is like $15 or $16 in real life. So yeah, it can get very addictive.
I know that Hayden does, however, have a lot of food hacks that he's done in the past. So the benefit of working with Hayden is like I hear these amazing little stories that he's done over the years. Can you tell us, Hayden, about airline meals and your story there?
Yeah, there was a couple of things. I love airplanes and aviation and cheap travel generally, so I'm pretty engaged with that. And I try and spend a lot of time seeing what cheap wins I can get on travel generally. And there was one particular funny scenario where I think it was back in early 2020. I think it was one of the airline contractors, the ones that prepare the food. They realized that with COVID now they'd had all this food prepared and they didn't have anyone to sell it to. So in Mascot in Sydney near the airport, they were just like handing out frozen plain meals. I think it was like 10 meals for $20 by the bunch. They just had freezers there. So I hopped on my bicycle one night and rode down to Mascot with a big hiking bag and bought like $40 worth of frozen food and just brought it home and fed myself on it for a week or however long that would last me. But, you know, little things like that stack up.
Was it worth it?
It's a funny story. People love to ask me about that one, but that particular one was actually probably not worth it because I don't know why, but the frozen food they had was so much worse than the plain food normally. Because I kind of thought about airplane food and was like, it's okay, you know, like an economy meal. It's like, all right, but it was so much worse. It made economy food look quite premium. But I was talking to Dave from Strong Money Australia about this. It's like sometimes you have to go and try and save money and waste money in order to like figure out where those sweet spots are, right? Because for every story, a random thing like that, there's another area you tried to save money in that did work. And I think you end up winning out more often than you lose on that stuff.
Yeah, and even if you ate like 8 of them at $5, I don't know, $2 each or something. I don't know.
I got through 4 of them, but yeah, no, it's still okay in the end. But it's fun to try
$10
out.
a meal is fine.
Yeah, you know, it's exciting. It's exciting to try and save that kind of money.
And it's a good story. I feel like I've heard it for years now pop up.
Yeah, exactly. I was telling Dave another one about how, if you don't mind me sharing, it's like when it comes to actually flying, it was like some years ago when you fly with Jetstar, they started charging you for seats, right? So you didn't get to pick your seats anymore. And then they used to let you pick your seat after check-in, and then they don't even let you pick your seat anymore for free. You have to pay money for it. And when traveling with another person, I figured out that if you don't pay for seats, right, they often just put you together anyway. So like paying for seats can kind of be a bit of a misnomer. So I was like saving a lot of money there. And then recently I got really into videography, and I love just like filming out a window when I'm flying. But so I want a window seat. And I figured that on like the small domestic planes, if you book a ticket with someone else, they're always going to assign you kind of together and either on like aisle middle or like middle window. And if they put you on like aisle middle, then you can just pay for like one of the people to like move to the window. So suddenly now it's like you can kind of get a window seat with someone for like $7 instead of $14 half the time, because the other half of the time you just get randomly allocated to a window. So, you know, that's like $14 maybe that you save per flight if you really care about that kind of thing.
Amazing. I used to refuse to ever pay for seats, but I had a few bad experiences in the middle seat. Now I'll happily pay the $7 to not be in the middle ever again.
Yeah, for sure. When you're traveling alone, it's definitely a bit of a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah. We had a few questions from some people at Perla, and someone asked you to prove that Jetstar really isn't that bad, and why do you not include Rex on your analysis? What analysis are they talking about?
Yeah, so internally at Perla, we do trips where we fly people, in to like Sydney typically for some kind of like team events. And there's kind of been a bit of an ongoing tease and joke in the company that I often fly our team members through Jetstar a lot of the time, usually on the cheapest flight, but Jetstar's often the cheapest flight. And one time someone kind of raised this as a problem, and I went and found like the Bureau of Statistics or aviation statistics stats that showed that, you know, Jetstar was only like 1% worse in terms of cancellations than Virgin or something. So there's like an ongoing joke in Perla now where someone brought to my attention that in February, Jetstar was actually on time more often than Virgin and Qantas. So, you know, just continuing to reinforce that some of these budget things aren't as bad as they sound. But the question from someone at Perla was I conveniently left Rex off the list to make my point, even though Rex seems to be beating everyone at the moment.
Yeah, I was quite impressed by Rex. I didn't really expect too much from them, but then they gave me a snack and bags were included. So that was amazing.
Yeah. No, I think I've flown them a couple of times too. And I thought they'd be super expensive and, maybe not much better, but they really seem to be standing out at the moment.
Isn't it crazy that snacks are a novelty now? Like that just used to be a part of a flight. And now it's like, oh my gosh, I got a bag of pretzels. Life is grand.
Yeah, it's not even anything good.
Definitely.
I was wondering, should we backtrack a little bit? Like, this is the first time we've had Hayden on the show. Hayden is the co-founder of Perler. I love that you're obviously into the fire scene. You love frugality, as we can tell, and we'll talk more about it, hopefully. How did you come to fund a company?
Oh, that's a great question. The funny thing about the startup space and starting a company is that it's generally not for the poor, which is kind of a funny idea. And, I was very lucky that when you start a company, you have to have some kind of money generally to get it started. Once it gets big enough, there's usually other companies out there who will invest in you and help you grow. But in Australia in particular, it's very hard to kind of create something without the money to create it. And in finance, in our space, that's even more true because there's a lot of upfront costs with finance. Like before we even got our first customer, we had to start paying, minimum fees to banks and to, trading partners and things like that. So I was quite lucky that both of my co-founders had some kind of small source of money to help out. Like in the case of one of my co-founders, they were just a lot older. So they had accumulated more wealth because they were like well into their 30s. And the other co-founder had some money they could tap into with family. And these aren't huge amounts of money or anything, but it's enough to kind of get started. So that helps significantly. And I often tell people, it's like if I had co-founders who were poor like me, I would not have been able to get Perler off the ground. So I still owe a lot to them and their situations early on.
How old were you when you founded Perler?
I think I was 24, just about to turn 25. So it was around 6 years ago now.
Yeah, wow, super impressive.
Yeah, felt like an adult at the time, but now that I look back, I'm like, you're just a little baby. But yeah, at the time, you just feel like you're on top of things.
How did you meet Nick and Kurt? Like, how did that partnership start?
Yeah, I knew Kurt through university. So we ended up kind of living in the same, dorm together at university. And we were just kind of loose friends because we were around each other for a year or so. And we stayed in touch. And then basically Nick started working with Kurt. I think Nick was working at a company where Kurt came in as an intern because Nick's a bit older than Kurt and I, and they met each other through that. And then I think they were talking about trying to disrupt the finance space, and they came to talk to me about it too because, I have like a software engineering background. So they were kind of just looking for my guidance on how to get started. And I thought the ideas they had were pretty cool too. So I, after messing around a bit, I just said, screw it, let's just do this together then. And the three of us kind of tried to set out and get it done.
Amazing. What's the best thing you've done to save money at Perler or when starting Perler?
The best thing from a business standpoint that we've done to save money?
I just want like a frugal Perler hack. Frugal Hacks company version.
I definitely think one of the biggest ones, which is a little bit anti-startup, is like how tight I can get with the software services that we have. Like a good example is we use this service called Airtable, which is basically glorified spreadsheet for nerds. And I think at one point we were using like an employee management tool to do reimbursements. And I think our COO kind of said, it's $5 a month per employee to do reimbursements. And I just said, actually I can use this Airtable product to kind of craft together something really quickly. And we've been using that for 2 years. So we probably save, $5 a month by 15 by like 24 months, which, a normal startup will kind of balk at and be like, you shouldn't be focusing on saving that like small quantum of like $1,000 or $2,000 over a couple of years because you need to like grow. But sometimes we do our best to live by our values to some extent because it would be a bit ironic to be like a financially aware branded startup just like spending money recklessly too.
Yeah, when you've got a computer software development background, it's pretty awesome that you can be like, I'll just make one myself. It's fine. Exactly. We don't need their service.
Exactly.
What I love about Hayden is that you're always looking at like saving these small amounts, such as like $7 on a seat ticket for an airplane. But then there's also like big cost savings that I know you're interested in and have looked into. Like, for example, salary sacrificing. Is that like, I know you've definitely done some of that and looked at the First Home Super Saver scheme. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like the bigger savings that people can look into that you've looked into as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think supers, I could just talk about super for a second. That's been the main one on my mind recently. Like as I'm not a complicated person. I earn an income and I don't spend much, and therefore I pay a lot of tax, and I don't have some magical tax loophole. Like I pay tens of thousands of dollars of tax a year. And I always got really excited by, salary sacrificing super or making a super deduction, because for me, it was always the only deduction I could see that came from not spending money necessarily, but like investing money in yourself. So it's this crazy idea that the government essentially gives you a tax concession for like building your wealth. It's like a cashback for wealth building. It's crazy. And that area kind of came to my mind more as, I am soon to be a homeowner, where I realized that young people can start saving for super, for their house through super. And we started building some calculators in Perla. I kind of made one a few weeks ago to figure out just how strong that benefit is. And I think it's a good example of something that we try and do a lot at Perla. Is I just realized that there's no decent calculator that tells you, like, if I use super to save for my home, how much faster can I save? So we think, well, that would benefit people. So let's just go and build a quick demo and see what our customers think of it. And if they like it, we'll keep spending time on it.
I love seeing super as a cashback for wealth building. That's a completely new way to view it. I'll have to start thinking of it more like that.
Yeah, I love it. I think last year I put in like $10,000 into my super, and that brought back like $3,700 from my tax return. And like, obviously, yeah, you pay 15% tax on the way into super and things like that. But I just couldn't get past how awesome it was to save for retirement and get a cashback for it. It's still just super exciting to me.
And I used to think of super as something that was really, really far away. But then I started reading that you can access super when you're 60 and not 67 through some certain ways. So 60 seems a lot closer and a lot more accessible than 67 or 70 or 75 or whatever it might be.
Yeah, definitely. And I find just getting older changes my mind on that. Like, I'm 31 soon, and I remember being like 25 and being like, super, that's forever away. And I'm suddenly older quite quickly, and I'm like, I feel like 60 might just like creep up on me quicker than I expect.
Yeah,
so maybe it's not too bad. Exactly.
How did you go about deciding to buy your first home? Because that obviously costs a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saving for a lot of years, like working very hard. Like, I've been kind of renting in pretty modest rentals, and I just kind of had all this cash stacked up or invested. And I just thought, with interest rates being high and having a lot of cash, I'm not going to feel a huge amount of that effect because I could offset a lot of it. And the housing market has been relatively flat here in Sydney on like normal Sydney crazy standards. So if I'm going to do it in the next 10 years, now is probably a good time. And I think what actually tipped me over the edge was that, it sounds kind of dumb, but I've always hated the idea of paying stamp duty. Like, hated it. It's the idea of spending tens of thousands of dollars for anything as a tax was like mind blowing. But then when someone pointed out that you can buy a house in Sydney, if it's under 800,000, you can get stamp duty waived, I thought, I don't need anything fancy. So maybe I can go and, maybe all the stars are aligning at this point. Because generally I'm not like super keen on it, but it just kind of made sense at the time.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, not paying stamp duty is definitely a big win. So no investment properties for you then?
No, I'll probably stay away from them and try and stick to ETFs. But like many Australians, like even if you do think ETFs are good, people still want to have a house that they own and live in, and I'm probably no different in that way too.
Yeah, amazing. I've got a few more fun questions that I'm very curious about from the Perla team to finish this off. But this one is interesting. What's a good price per kilo for clothing?
So, quick bit of background. We have this channel, like this, conversation at Perla called, the Personal Finance Club, where, I kind of started it hoping that people would share lots of things in their money hacks. And it's mostly been me so far. But I think a few weeks ago I shared, there's a store nearby where I live, about maybe 10 minutes drive away. It's called U-Turn in Sydney, in Punchbowl. And they basically sell like, refurbed clothes. Like, people come and donate clothes and they just sell it for like a small margin. And you can buy like 3 sets of jeans for like 3 sets of used jeans for $20, so all pretty cheap. But they have this section at the back there that I was telling everyone they should check out, where they just have the most random dump of clothes. Like, imagine just like a Vinnie's bin of just random crap in there. And they just say, take what you want and we'll sell it. Like, we'll put it on a scale and we'll just sell it to you for $10 a kilo. So I went there a few weeks ago and bought like 4 pairs of, like, if you spend like 30 minutes there really combing through it, like 5 shirts, 3 pairs of shorts for like $12 or something like that. So 1.2 kilos of clothes, and it's always stuff like that around if you look hard. How
much does a usual t-shirt weigh? I don't know, like a few hundred grams, not even?
Yeah, I don't know. I probably 100 to 200 grams. I definitely had a moment when I was queuing up for the checkout, pondering about how heavy certain types of fabrics are and how much they might cost differently.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there was some really thick shorts, and I was like, that might be like 400 grams. Geez.
Yeah, you need to get out your little scales, like your cooking scales. Like, how much does these weigh?
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, funny little things like that. But there's a lot of crap there, of course. But again, you just got to sift through it.
Yeah, it's the fun of finding the bargain. I like that as well when you like get the good deal and you're like, wow, I'm so satisfied. I don't even really want that thing so much. I'm just so proud of the deal I got.
Yeah, exactly. There's such a good hit that comes from it. It can be very motivating.
Another question is, what is stealing versus what is okay to take from a hotel?
Yeah, this is just the team dobbing me in, I guess.
Yeah.
So where this came from, this question is, at some point I kind of pointed out to the team that if I ever stay at a hotel, I'll usually take like if it's like somewhere local or, Melbourne or something, and I have space in my bag, I'll usually take like the 3/4 remaining toilet roll back home with me because I have space in my bag. I'm like, why not? It's not an inconvenience or anything. And then we got into a long conversation about what can you take or not take from a hotel. And we kind of drew a line that was like, if you're taking an unused toilet roll that they're just going to pass on to the next person who's there in the hotel, then that's kind of stealing and you probably shouldn't do that. But if you have like a half-used toilet roll, they're probably just going to throw it in the bin, like most hotels, they're not just going to like leave a half-used toilet roll there. So, it was like, if it's been opened, for lack of a better phrase, then yeah, take it home. It's like, it sounds dumb, it's like maybe like 30 cents. But for me, you always got to look at the cost saving versus the effort, right? Like grab it, putting it in the bag, taking it out. I'm not better than thinking, that's not worth 30 cents, for 5 seconds of effort.
Yeah, this reminds me of my granddad so much. Like he has done really well financially, but he is one of the most frugal people I have ever met. And when he used to have his own business, but also work a job, and he would go into the office just to take toilet roll and pens and stuff like that. And I don't think they bought toilet roll for like decades. And we'd be like, you've got enough money to buy your own toilet roll. But he was like, no, it's free. Why would I buy it? Yeah,
it's funny too, like how it can devolve into chaos. Like I used to have some frugal friends at university and they eventually figured out, like, when you go to like corporate buildings where they have the massive crappy pieces of like toilet rolls behind the thing, they managed to find a key for those, like the universal key to unlock them. And they just used to like walk into the uni at night and take like 3, 4, 5 of those rolls and like walk them home and be like, that's toilet paper for me for the next 3 months. And I probably huge. I probably don't condone that one because I'm pretty sure that is stealing. But I got to admire the mentality of trying to see what they can achieve, I guess, in their frugal goals.
Yeah, the effort is quite impressive for sure. Do you take all the little like toothbrushes and shampoos and stuff? Surely that's okay.
Yeah, I do. I think there was like a trip I did last year where I changed hotels a lot and they gave me like free stuff for a while. And I think I didn't need new toothpaste for like 3 months. I think I haven't bought like a new razor in like 3 months because I've just been using like the single-use ones that they gave at hotels for a while too. So again, it's benign and silly if you think about it one way, but I think, Anna mentioned this at the start around the Uber Eats and building habits. It's like, I know that those little things won't ever have an economic impact on me, but I do know that it will help me maintain a mindset where I'll always be looking for the bigger wins in life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. That's such a good way to look at it. And like, I love all the little things too. Like I take all the toothpaste that I bought from staying at the hotel and the razors and stuff like that. And it's fun being like, oh, what little shampoo am I going to use today?
Yeah, exactly. Never thought about it from like building a little suite of, options that you have. That's lovely. Yeah.
Like your own little mini shop.
Exactly. Mini bar at home.
Yeah. Back to hotels. What's your hotel free cancel booking strategy?
Yeah, I think I did a bit of travel last year for the first time since kind of COVID. It's kind of pent up, saved a lot of money and had lived a pretty boring life. And I kind of figured out that every time I book a trip anywhere, and I usually book trips well in advance on deals, like that evening, I'll just go and book a hotel that day kind of thing and find one that's like cancelable and particularly if you can find ones that don't need upfront payment because prices obviously go up closer to the date you're there. And it's really great in low stress because what I'll do is like, if I'm going somewhere in 6 months, I'll go book a hotel that I don't need, make it cancelable. And then a week before I go or a couple of weeks before I go, I'll just go and find a hotel that see if there's a better one or a cheaper one or a nicer one, and then make the decision to kind of keep that original one or do the newer one. And that also works for car hire too. I found that's really helpful. Like I think I'm going to Cairns for the first time in my life this year. And I booked that flight like 9 months ago and I did the car hire, and for a week it was like $200 at the time for like a nice enough car. And it's like, I can still cancel it today, but because I just got in early, it's still like way cheaper. So if anyone's ever doing any kind of travel, I'd say if something's cancelable for free, just like get in early and just snag something, because it gives you a lot of comfort and security, takes the stress off finding something that you like later on, gives you chances, if your trip falls through or something else like that too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've started doing that a lot more recently because I've definitely left things to the last minute, especially in Sydney. That gets horrendously expensive very quickly. But most hotels seem to offer free cancellation, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. Like nearly all hotels and like car hike, actually so many things from a travel perspective do. Like even I was like thinking about, Great Barrier Reef stuff, deciding I'm still not sure if that's worth the money for me at the moment. Like go do all the snorkeling. Surely
you have to see it before it's all dead and gone.
That's my thought. I'm like, what if it's not there in 5 years? But even that one, it's like the bookings, there's like early bird bookings. And if you just go read the terms and conditions, you can cancel like up to 24 hours beforehand and get your money back. And I think that's probably like a broader thing I'd encourage people to do is you don't have to be a lawyer. Like I'm just a software developer. Get comfortable reading terms and conditions. Like they seem scary at first, but if you just get into a habit of always reading it when you book stuff, you'll really quickly start to see that there's a lot of rules and things that can benefit you.
Yeah, definitely. What kind of travel insurance do you buy?
I will admit that I'm a novice when it comes to the whole kind of points hacking world with credit cards, but recently I have gotten on the whole kind of credit card bandwagon to get the travel insurance. But I need to spend more time figuring out how you can, maximize all the credit card points and stuff. But I don't think I'd
you
buy.
Haven't just yet.
Yeah, I think what happened was I used to have a credit card for a while, and then I just kind of decided that I wanted to cancel it because of the fee, and then I just never got back into it. And that was silly because there was 7 years where I didn't have one. And if you're savvy about credit cards, you don't even need to do much. Like I'm actually not a particularly like risk heavy person. So a lot of people get credit cards because they like want to stack up flight points, for instance. And like I have a simpler view on it, which is like if I go get a Combank card and they give you all these points when you sign up to the card, I know from just Googling that with those points, I could redeem $500 in cash and the card costs $200 a year. So I'll buy the card, do the few months or whatever, redeem the cash, and then cancel the card after a year or two, and you still make money. So that's my like really simple view on it right now, but I haven't sat down and figured out all the different ways to maximize
it's really
that.
Cool. I'm excited to see the spreadsheet you'll surely make when you start figuring it out. But like a nice example I have is the Canberra to Perth flight with Qantas is quite expensive and they only go once a day, but they are like $500-$600, even like up to $1,000 sometimes. And they're 18,000 points. And a lot of cards will give you like 80 to 90,000 bonus points. So I can fly back from Perth to Canberra like 4 or 5 times, which is really awesome.
Right. So like from your perspective, it's like hundreds or thousands of dollars even.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. A benefit just from getting like a couple $100 a year card even.
Yeah. And some of them give you travel credits as well. Like one of my Amex ones is a $450 fee, but you get a $450 Qantas travel credit. So it offsets itself pretty much instantly if you fly Qantas ever.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think some people get scared of because they think, there's no free lunch. But I think what people forget is like you're basically extracting a benefit from all the businesses that take Visa or MasterCard, right? Like they pay these companies that then pay you. So you are actually benefiting for free most of the time without any kind of trapdoor or anything like that.
Yeah. And like the usual disclaimer definitely is like there's studies showing that credit cards can cause you to spend more and you definitely need like a good cash flow system set up beforehand. But yeah, if you can manage it well, it's such a great travel hack.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have a final frugal hack that we haven't spoken about?
I think probably, I could give all these, I don't like giving all the frugal hacks around, buy rice in bulk or something, because I think a lot of people are tuned into a lot of food ones. But I'll tell you one random food one that I've always loved. And this I didn't come up with, I just read it somewhere. It was like when you're going to Subway and you're ordering salads, don't just say I want all the salads, like really spell it out for them slowly, making you think that you're only going to get a couple. Because if you tell them you want all the salads, they just kind of drop a little bit of each on there. But if you kind of say like, I'll get lettuce and tomato, they like put a fair bit on. And then you're like, can I also get that? Can I also get that? They like stack it up as if, you're just getting just only that. That's pretty benign, but it's a fun little way to, just get a little bit more out of your dollar if you're ever going to Subway.
I love that. Order slowly if you go to Subway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you have a cool podcast as well with Dave from Strong Money. What's your podcast called?
Yeah, it's the Aussie Fire podcast. Dave and I spend a lot of time, I guess, talking about different ways to achieve financial independence. It's something that's quite fun for me because, Dave and I are a little bit different. Like I'm someone who, thinks about financial independence I think about having a family one day, and, Dave doesn't really want to have a family, and Dave kind of comes from making a lot of his money his wealth around like property in Perth. And I'm someone who's kind of rented and only had ETFs in Sydney. So we have a lot of cool discussions around, how do you approach housing, or what's a way to achieve financial independence without having high income? So we just get to have some fun conversations together about everything FI, I guess.
Yeah, nice. It's great having two completely different perspectives on something. So that's great. Worth having a listen. Awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks, Tash. And thanks, Anna. It's been a great little conversation today, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please rate us 5 stars, write a review, or share with a friend. If you're new to investing, make sure to listen to our first 10 episodes. Follow us at Get Rich Slow Club, or Tash at Tash Invests, or me at Ana Kresina.
This show was brought to you by Natasha Etschmann, who is an authorised representative 1299881 of Guideway Financial Services, AFSL 420367, and Perla, who is an authorised representative 1281540 of Sanlam Private Wealth, AFSL 337927. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing, so make sure you check out our financial services guides and read the product disclosure statement and target market determination for any investments you're considering. See our show notes for more info.